Okay, and thank you for coming and checking out another one of my videos. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL. So let's just jump into this. If you've seen the thumbnail, you know what we're working on. This is a PDF from the website you can just download and use. We're going to use this over here on the left because this has the start that I'm looking to do. You kind of need this for this type of bracelet. Essentially this time what I'm going to try to do is group the colors to each of the two sides. So essentially I'm going to use 6 colors, and I'm going to put the 2 reds coming over here, and let me just blow this up a little bit, coming in from the left and coming across, and try to give it that sort of a basket weave look. It looks sort of cubical, or but it's really, if you kind of look closer, it's an over-under thing. So you can see basically using a simple that goes straight down the line. Let's grab another color here, an orange, and that's what's going to go next to it. So essentially here, I typically don't do the entire work. I basically try to work out how to get the colors set in the right sequence, and most of the rest of the pattern, once you kind of get it going, it sort of sorts itself out. So I'm kind of just basically setting up the colors here. There's the yellow, add a green, that's what's going to come from the other side. And I am totally I have no intentions of making a rainbow bracelet. You've seen the outcome, it's just shades of blue. What I'm trying to do here is to see what the sequential order is. So basically if we called the red number 1, orange number 2, yellow number 3, and this green number 4, then I can kind of assess, okay, so I'm going to start with my darkest color, and then put that where the red is. And then my next darkest color would be where the orange is, the next where the yellow is, and then this is the part that used to hang me up in the early days, what goes over on the other side, right? So this is how I'm sorting it out. Now you can see I'm creating, well, hang on, let me get the right colors. Grab the color picker, didn't follow through with that properly. So you see the red went on top for its little piece, the green follows after that. In this case now, okay, so we have done the green, let's do the blue. The blue will go over top of the red. So you can kind of start to maybe see how this is kind of a basket weave of sorts. It's a basket weave using 6 different ones. So based on that, if you get the gist of how this is working out, there's so many other ways that you could actually play out this whole thing. You could make it perhaps where you're going to use maybe only 3 colors, or I don't know, maybe even more colors. I'm not, the sky's the limit, right? Well, I say that. You would have to have a lot more strings if you're going to try to do much more. Alright, so a little paint bucket. And we can see that the red finishes out over here on the right hand side. Right? So let's see. Color picker, orange, paint tool, and fill it in. Now this PDF that I've used here, these you kind of want to set at the beginning when I was opening it up. You might notice that the number of pixels is it says 300. Anything less than that, it comes out really super grainy. So you just need to make sure that you have that set when you first open this thing up. So if yours doesn't look quite as clean as this, that might be why. So okay, we got the orange in. Let's see, I think we need to get the purple next. And right about there. Okay. Again, I'm just doing shades of blue, but whenever I set this up here, I like to be able to make a big contrasting difference that I can really look and see where things are going. It just makes it easier down the road. This really should be a super easy project. I think anybody can do this. Not terrible, right? So hopefully I hear from you guys saying, hey, you know, I did it or whatever. That'd be fantastic. So all right. So you can see the blue would come over next because the blue had gone over, then it went under the orange, it comes back over. Then the yellow would come after the blue. So you should be kind of getting a gist of where this is going, right? It's just a weave, right? Oops. You could, in fact, color this whole thing in if that was your intent. At this point, I can't imagine why you would need to. I think that you would be able to pretty much see that it's really just a straightforward pattern, right? Over, under, over, under. If the color you were just using went over, it's going to go under the next time. Also, you can see on the right hand side, it went from red, orange, yellow. It's going to basically run down that whole sequence all the way down the bracelet. So if it isn't, then you've made a mistake somewhere, and hopefully you've caught it in time. So let's get to the actual knotting, right? Because as fun as GIMP might be, I think the knots will be a little bit more exciting. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how I get all of the colors to the one side. All my strings are doubled up here because it's only 6 colors. If I'd used single, I'd never have been able to use the kumi. Doubling it up gives me 12 strings, which is great for doing up the kumi. That's what makes that loop so nice up there. So what I've done now is the right hand side I separated the 3 light from the 3 dark. Now the left hand side I'm doing the same. I'm moving the light to the right hand side, and I'm moving the dark to the left hand side. Again, the whole idea here was the darkest color is going to go where the red was in the pattern that we are making. So once I get these sorted properly, and make sure you count the strings, make sure you have it right. You know, don't want to accidentally leave one behind. Right, so get them grouped together accordingly. And now I pinched the 2 bits really close together here. So when I first loop this around, if this is a single, this isn't like a whole regular knot, this is just do it once. And then I grab the second one and I make sure it's pulled nice and tight. I want those 2 corners of where the kumi was to come together really nice and tight. This is what will give it a nice clean look. Alright, again, just one figure 4, and I want it to come so that way the string lies towards the middle. That's going to give us that diamond shape at the top. Okay, now I'm going to go to the second color, the second darkest. First one, second one. Keeps going out of focus because it sees my hands and then it wants to jump there. Oh, that's there we go. And then the last one, the third darkest. So like I said before, we were going, it's just 1, 2, 3, and then the other side starting from the top will be 4, 5, and then 6. 6 being the lightest. So here, make sure that I've got them paired up properly. Got the darkest color from this side, and again, it's a figure 4, just drawing it into where it comes into the center. This isn't terribly difficult, really. It's not. But if you, by learning this opens up a whole lot of patterns that you might not have been able to do otherwise. This is typically a pattern would have the 6 colors on either side. So you end up with zigzags, you end up with chevrons, you end up with a lot of things where the colors are, you know, kind of divided more evenly. Here where we're putting them grouped together. So hopefully this will help you when you're trying to do something clever. I did one here recently. It's in the portfolio where it looks like links that are interlinked with each other, and I shifted a couple of colors to the one side and the other colors to the other. And this is the same method, same thing I did. So basically this is a different way of starting. It kind of opens up the whole world of what you could come up with in a different kind of way, right? Alright, so now I have all the strings laid out, everything's ready. It's going to have a really beautiful smooth start, and just like the pattern, start with the darkest one at the highest point and come across. Make that little square. So 1 and 2. And you want to make sure that when you're starting off something like this, you get those first knots in there really nice and firm. Really make sure that everything is nice and squared away, and it'll help make sure that the whole rest of the bracelet kind of follows suit. If the begin's sloppy, the whole thing will be sloppy. Alright. Now you can see, so we had the first one came over, this one goes the other direction. Not exactly the fastest pattern to work on because of the fact that you don't get to go very far before you have to kind of change your directions, but it's not a terrible pattern either. I think it comes out really pretty. It's a little bit exciting. Even people who have done bracelets for a while, I think, would notice that this is something that's pretty attractive, I think. So, all right. So first 2 rows down. Now, mind you, if you see how I'm doing this, I basically I can go any which way, you know, as long as I'm keeping the strings as I should, you know, in the little squares or whatever. But I found that doing it where I was working with the blocks and coming over towards the right, that was what was fastest for me. You might find going to the left is your preference. That's totally cool. I can get that. But bouncing around will just kind of, I think it just ends up taking you more time. If you try to do 1 row at a time, I also think that would take you more time. Because at this point here, I have those 4 strings are already sorted. They're separate from the whole rest of the group, right? So getting them done, and then I've already got the 2 darker ones there, right? So now the lightest color one, I just make sure that it's not tangled, bring it across. It's just about cutting time here and there that will help you to be able to get your bracelets done in a quicker manner, and to keep it nice and flat and consistent. Have the tension nice and even. So as the next row comes across, you can see it's starting to take shape. Soon we'll have it all the way from the edge, and should really be able to make out how the design looks. The fun thing too with this one is it balances out all of the strings usage evenly. Probably not a big deal to everybody, but if you're really conscious on the amount of string that you're using, what this means is essentially that you don't have to cut the strings nearly as long, because since everything's being used equally, nothing is going to run out, you know, any sooner than the others. Plus, also this one also balances the colors rather nicely. There's no area of the bracelet that suddenly seems like way darker than the other. You get that a lot with a fade, where you know, one part of it is particularly dark and then it fades down to the light one. This one's using fade, and you'll see at the end it really just balances the colors all the way through it. It's a nice fun use of color. It's great with rainbows. I mean, you saw that with the setup, right? It's great with a rainbow. You could use pretty much anything if you know. It'd probably turn out fairly well, at least. So again, you can see darkest, medium, and then the third darkest coming across there, right? So then that's going to progress on down, and that should, every single row, you should see the last row should be the next one lighter until you've done the lightest. Then of course the row after that will be the dark one again. If that doesn't turn out, that means you've mixed up the sequence of the weave. So that's kind of a way of knowing if you made a mistake too, early on. You can also see the bracelet's kind of moving around on me a bit. Typically at this point I would have actually shifted the whole thing up under the clip a bit more, and the only reason I haven't is I want you to be able to see the bracelet as I'm working on it. And I kind of, looking at this now, kind of thinking, I really wish I'd moved it a bit. Also, you notice the whole video is kind of jostling a little. That's got to do with Mom is up at the table. Since she had a stroke, she's been trying to come up with things to keep her occupied. She's picked up on some crafting, and she's trying to do this origami thing, and she keeps, I don't know what she's doing over there, but she keeps jostling the table. So hopefully I can do a little video editing and get most of that knocked out, because if you saw what I'm seeing right now, it's it's a bit crazy. Alright, so this row is almost through. Yeah, I'm really open to questions. If you guys come up with something, you're trying to understand how I did this, or any portion of these projects, or other projects perhaps you want to see done, give me a holler, let me know. This one is going under the category of the easy, the beginner stuff, because it's essentially just using the two knots, one that goes to the right and one that goes to the left. There's no extra stuff, there's whatever. So any beginner should be able to pick this one up pretty quickly. Okay, so the next to the lightest, coming across the lightest one now. You can see it's really starting to balance out. It's really starting to show what it can be. Hopefully you're enjoying this. Hopefully this is giving you an idea of something new to try. Maybe inspiring you to come up with something completely new and different. If that's the case, fantastic. I'm not one to say that there's only one way to do these things. I definitely believe that the art has room to grow, and I think that if you've got it in you to come up with something new and exciting, I think that's great. Do it. All right, almost done with this row now. You can see just 1, 2, and then go to the next one, 1, 2. At the end you get an extra one because it goes over its own color, so it's 2 the first time and then 3 the next time. Pretty quick, pretty simple. And when you start the row it's 3 and then 2. All the rest is just 2 and then 2. All right. You can see when I first start out, I pull the 4 across out from the whole rest of the group, and I just kind of make sure that they're not tangled, and then that's kind of helps speed things up for pulling out just the one I need. Let's see. So basically with this row, I've completed all the way through from darkest to the lightest. So basically cycled through all 6 of the colors. The next row would be the darkest again. Now, as far as like where I stopped, how far through the pattern I went, that has everything to do with the string that I'm using and the fact that I have it doubled up and like that. So honestly, just do it until you feel it's as long as you feel it needs to be. That's kind of a personal thing, you know. I kind of gauge mine against my own wrist. I don't have really huge wrists, but I make long tassels at the end, so that way if somebody was really big or something, they would still be able to tie it on themselves. But I want it to be small enough that somebody with a smaller wrist it would still fit them. So, alright, white is just about across. Again, I really hope this is helping you guys. That's just my whole hope here, is that we get more of you guys actually making some cool stuff and getting excited about it. Because look at that. I think not bad, right? Not bad at all. Alright, and there's it is. That's the finished product. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, and you'll come back and watch some more videos and let me know what you think. Alright, you guys have a good one. If you enjoyed this video, do click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions you'd like answered in future tutorials, leave a comment below. For more on friendship bracelets, visit AKAAWOL.com. Also, be sure to hit me up on Instagram at AKAAWOL. Thanks for watching, and don't get your strings in a bunch.